Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you a quick research update and let you know what's kind of going on. For those of you that are new, this is starting to get a little bit deep, so I don't want to go over your head too much here. We're going to backtrack here eventually, but I kind of want to get everybody else just a quick research, an update on the research. So for all of you other guys out there, if you know, I've been using Metatron's cube a lot. And Metatron's cube is based on the fruit of life. And one of the things that disturbed me, and I took a couple of videos down because one of the things that disturbed me is the fact that Metatron's cube does not naturally contain anything that's in it that's phi. So the rectangles in it are not phi rectangles. I couldn't find anything in it that was phi related. And I was like, well, this obviously has something to do with these circles, because when we put these circles in here like this and we do this, although it contains a lot of good information, the circles and drawing the points from the center points of each one of those circles determines whether or not you're going to get any kind of images or shapes or anything in there that are phi related. So I was like, there's got to be a solution to this. So I went out to set out and make my own cube. And I started looking at the fruit of life, and I was like, well, this is really interesting, but why is it that on these top 6 right here that we have this gap that perfectly fits a circle in each one of these? So what I decided to do is I decided to take the fruit of life and create 6 more circles right here, and then draw a point and then draw lines from each one of those circles just to see what would happen. Okay, because I wouldn't lose any of the geometry that's already contained in the original cube. The only thing that would happen, I would gain more, right? So what was there to lose? So that became of this. So this is this tree of life, and I'll go into this with you here in just a second. But what became of all that is this. And let's see, just brighten this up for you a little bit. This is what became of all of it. Now, there was something that I noticed immediately that I thought was extremely important in this that we would not normally suspect. Now, when you start digging into this, and if you've looked into any of the sacred geometry with Stephen Phillips, who knows particle physics and string theory and all this other stuff, he's pretty amazing. But what you notice is that these spheres that you see, or these circles, they in Qabalah, they are referred to the planets and so forth. Now this is from the Secret Teaching of All Ages. This is the Tree of the Sephiroth. And so this is what's interesting about this particular pattern. Okay, the ancients believed that Earth was in the center. Okay, and that means that this area right here that you see is us. This circle right here. Okay, now surrounding that circle, we have 6 planets. Okay, so if we come over here to this tree, we have Earth, depending on the alternative that you're looking at right here. We have Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the Zodiac. But really it's Earth, the Moon, then Mercury, then Venus, then the Sun, then Mars, then Jupiter. Saturn, you'll see, I don't think belongs in there, and I think this diagram kind of almost shows it. But then here is the really interesting key about this, okay? And then I'll show you Catherine after that. So the next one is the Zodiac, okay? And the Zodiac contains 12 constellations. Well, so if we look at this diagram right here, and I've used it to where I've kind of shrunk it down to at the same time. But what you'll notice is after these 6 spheres, so you have Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter. No Saturn on here, but check this out. After that, then you have 12 surrounding spheres. And the 12 surrounding spheres would be the same as what we would consider the zodiac. Okay, so there is a pattern and there is a geometry to this and what we are seeing in the cosmos. So I believe that this particular cube, and I'll also say this as well, this cube contains naturally some phi stuff in it. Namely, there are two things that it contains. It contains the rhombus, it contains a golden rhombus, and it contains the dimensions of the pyramid. In other words, there are 3 points on here that when you expand the pyramid out, grow it or shrink it, that there are significant points that will point out to that. And that's how I kind of do this. So if I take a look at this right here, and we put Earth in the center, and one of the things you'll also notice if we put Earth in the center, if you'll notice, it creates a natural ring around it, which is what the moon rotates around. This geometry is very interesting, what it actually starts doing. So there's that. Now here is our bounding square, which you can't see. It's already kind of built into the geometry. You can see that it's there. That's because it's already there inside the geometry. So we already have the size of the Earth here. We already have the moon sitting on top of it, rotating around with this natural ring that's already in place. And then we already have this natural square surrounding the bounding area of the circle of the Earth. So all this is already contained in this geometry. And here's our pyramid real quick. And if you notice the corners of the pyramid, when they straddle the planet like this, they extend out to where that ring is that cuts the moon in half. So this is the orbit of the moon that we see, and that's kind of what the pyramid is doing there. Now this is where I wanted to show you the angles of the pyramid are actually contained in here. And I've actually taken a point to point. I've actually drawn lines to this, and I've tested it with the ruler. And it actually comes out to the exact angle that you have the pyramid, which is about 51.5 degrees that you see right here. So if I zoom in on this, and I find this significant because these things are found naturally in this particular cube. So you can see that these corners are right on there. And if you notice, this little triangle that you see right here is almost, you probably use a little bit of an imagination, but it almost looks like a capstone where you have a pyramid facing three-dimensionally at you. Okay, so which is where I think that's kind of interesting, but I think the idea that you have these 3 points on here which you could draw lines to and you get a pyramid is very significant, because then you can scale that up and down and you can get kind of the information that we're getting right now, which is exactly what we're using it for. In fact, I actually used it for just to create a solid shape that didn't have any of the other stuff with it, just so I could see the silhouette of it, and it worked great. Okay, so here we have again the pyramid shrunk back down to the size of the Earth, and we have our bounding square also. But one of the things that we also learned from the Great Pyramid is that it contains a rhombus inside of it. And what was not so clear at first was it's not the whole rhombus, it's only part of the rhombus, because the rest of the rhombus is found in the rest of the Earth. I'll show you what I mean here real quick. So if we put this rhombus on here like this, then it becomes very clear what they're trying to show us, because if we turn the tree of life on right here, the whole tree of life, which is you or man, covers the whole Earth. We saw this is also in the alchemical diagram that I showed you. But when we get up to the pyramid, see, the way that the tree of life works, if you're showing it as a rhombus, okay, and this is kind of the idea of the pyramid, because if you look at the rhombus right here, it's kind of showing you what a pyramid looks like. So it's another representation of it. So down here we have this the root level, or the lower 3 Sephiroth, right? And then once we reach this point here, it's not just the sun, but it is the beginning of the sun. And that moves all the way up until we get to here. And this point, if you notice, and this may be why the pyramid is, why the king's chamber is off center a little bit, is because it's showing that it's the very last part of the sun that you see right here. So, and this is in the solar plexus region, or the navel, or somewhere around in there. And this is where it all begins here. Anything before that, and so if you take a look at the way this rhombus works, and then when you get right here to where the sun is, and then you start moving up into this area, and look where it stops. It stops right at the point where it should stop, which is the point of Kether, which is the place of where Kether has just reached you. And so this whole tree of life, if you also notice, has some very interesting features about it also. It has the rhombus here. It has a rhombus here, which is all yellow. But then look right here, down here, it splits off, and the angles go into what we see as coming from both sides in the bottom region. So this is what came of that. Now the rhombus that you see here is a golden rhombus. And the golden rhombus is also inside this particular pattern of geometry. So I can show that to you real quick. Let's just select this rhombus here. And we'll turn off these circles here real quick. And we'll just take this thing and we'll grow it. And what I tend to look for is I look for 4 points. Here's our first one right here. There's probably one that's even, there's probably one even sooner, but you don't have a circle to use, so you don't have top 2 points to use. So this one right here contains all 4 points of a golden rhombus. Let me show you. You have this point here, you have this point here, this one here, and this one here. And if we calculate our rhombus size, okay, it's 868 by 537. So let's go ahead and try that real quick. .88 times 869, 868. You can see that this is a golden rhombus, and you can see that the points are actually contained in here. Now, if this is contained, then if you double it, there's another one just like it contained. That's the way it kind of works. When you take things like in these particular type of patterns, you can either double them or you can scale them in half, and everything always is in harmony with itself. So we would find a golden rhombus every time we either reduce this by half or scale it by 200%. So anyways, that's kind of what I want to show you so far, and then I'll just kind of put it together to show you kind of what it all looks like. This is what it kind of looks like with all of the geometry so far. And then of course the next thing to do once I'm satisfied with this would be to start working on the 6 planets surrounding the Earth. So when we take a look at all of this, and we even back out a little bit more, you start seeing something really interesting in this pattern. You see this big triangle here, and this big triangle here is a tetractys, and the one that you see at an even larger level right here is also a tetractys. And so when you get above the 12 circles of the zodiac, then you have these 3 things here called the Trinity. So, and then above the Trinity, this triangle, you have the circle. And this is all of what we hear about in the description of these philosophies over time. And when we zoom in, I mean, all of this stuff, mind you, has not been just made up, but has been researched through symbolism, taking a look at the geometry inside the pyramid. And as you can see, the way this pattern is evolving is exactly what we see in the cosmos and stuff like that, the geometry and everything. Some of the stuff that you guys have probably already seen, like the moon and its geometry, but you haven't seen these rings and stuff like this. You haven't seen the golden ratio applied to what we're seeing in these patterns. And I'm not aware of anybody out there that has a cube that has done this and added the extra 6 circles, which gives us a total of 7 in the inner and 12 on the outer, which is perfectly in harmony and in sync with Qabalah. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just wanted to give you kind of a quick update on where this is going and what I'm seeing so far. And it's really kind of amazing the way this is looking and coming out so far. And this is based on what they're showing us. So you guys have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.